You're listening to the Femtrepreneur Show, and this is episode 42. In this episode, we're chatting with Nesha Woolery of NeshaWoolery.com, and we're talking all about how she transitioned from client work to creating more leveraged income streams with courses and ebooks, and also how Nisha is using webinars to grow her business. Hey guys, it's Mariah.
And I'm Megan, and I can't wait for you guys to hear this interview with Nisha. It was so much fun. And as Mariah said, today we're talking to Nesha Woolery. Nisha teaches business strategy to freelance designers through her courses, members club, and ebooks, and helping create them businesses that are profitable and not just creative. Nisha also has a free course for you guys, so stay tuned to hear more about that at the end of our interview. Now let's get started.
Hey Nisha, we are so excited to have you here today. We've introduced you a little bit, but I want you to tell everyone in your own words who you are and what you do in your business.
So hi everyone, and thank you Mariah and Megan for having me on.
Of course.
Yeah, my name's Nisha, and I have been a full-time freelance designer for 5 years. And yeah, now I also teach other designers business strategy so that they can basically put a bit more strategy into their creative business so they're not a starving artist and they can create a thriving, profitable business.
Awesome. I know you do a lot of stuff with like automation and streamlining and stuff too, which maybe we can get into because I think that stuff is so interesting.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I teach through my course, Organize and Automate, I teach designers how to streamline their design process just so that they basically don't stress out as much with every new client that they take on, and they can just spend less time in programs like Photoshop and Illustrator because they've streamlined that process.
Ooh, cool.
I love that.
Okay, so
smart.
Tell us what you did before you started your business. Like, did you have a day job? Like, what were you doing before you started your business? And then I want to hear about the transition to going full time. How long did it take? What did you have to do to prepare? Let's go back a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So before I started my business, I just hopped from dead-end job to dead-end job, basically. So I did, I was a waitress, I worked in telesales, and then I worked in a department store. And yeah, all along, I kind of didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had some kind of idea that I wanted to be a writer. And so I started a blog because somebody told me that's what you should do if you want to get your work out into the world. So I started a blog while I was working part-time. But then the funny thing was that people started to notice my design more than my writing. So instead of getting people inquiring about my writing, they would inquire about me designing a blog for them or designing a logo for them. And yeah, I'd never really thought of pursuing that. It was just kind of like a hobby that I really enjoyed to do. So I decided to pursue that and just threw my all into studying it and interning with other designers. Just really, really learning what to do and how to do it right. And yeah, eventually I built up that business enough to quit my day job and freelance full time. And yeah, that was basically how I transitioned into being a business owner. Was first of all doing it as a bit of a side hustle and then building up the income, quitting the job to take the business full time. And now my next sort of chapter, I guess, is teaching through courses and webinars and different things like that. So I'm excited about it.
That's cool. I think there's definitely something to be said for the lesson in you thinking that you were going to get known for one thing and putting that out there and then just responding to what people were asking you for and not letting that be disappointing or derail you, but just be wow, the market is asking me for design resources or to be a designer. I guess that's my path now. I think that's cool.
Exactly. Yeah, you can kind of accidentally fall into things sometimes. And that's not a bad thing because it just shows you what you're truly good at. And if it's something that you really enjoy doing as well, then it's a win-win situation.
I mean, that can happen so often with our students and clients that are trying so hard to push something when they have this amazing opportunity or wow, you're getting a lot of traffic to this particular thing or everyone in your industry is asking about this thing. Why aren't you capitalizing on that? And I think that's an important thing to be well, if you really want to go full time and you really want to make the most of it, listen to your customers.
Yeah, exactly. And
novel idea.
It's the same. And it's the same with my course because when I first started thinking of teaching other designers, I knew that there was like a spot in the market for that wasn't really being filled, but I really didn't know what to teach. And it wasn't until I actually asked people, other designers, what they wanted to learn from me in particular, that it was that I found what I was going to teach. So yeah, I think it is definitely a really good lesson for us all to learn.
When you quit your job, was it mostly, was your income at the time mostly design clients?
Yes, it was 100% the design clients. Like I didn't earn affiliate income from my blog or anything like that. It was just 100% client work. So it was really great, and I really do love design work. But yeah, it did get to a stage where I was just like on that hamster wheel all the time of just working with clients and filling like every hour of the day with work. And so that's why I decided to sort of combine design work with passive income as well.
Okay, so let's talk about that. This is like the second transition, because you transitioned to going full-time in your business, which is an amazing feat in and of itself, to go and like be able to quit your job. And of course, it's like you do whatever it takes to do that. And then how did you... We have so many people who are listening, and so many of our own students and so many of our listeners who are maybe in that spot where they're like, I'm already booked to the nines doing all of this client work. How the hell am I going to find time to create? Yeah, passive income is the goal, but like, how do you make time from clients to be able to do that? So how did you balance the transition? How did you make time? Like, that's such a hot topic for our students.
Well, to be completely honest, I think that was where I made like my first mistake, because I decided, I knew I wanted to create a course. I'd asked my community like who they are and what they wanted to learn from me, and was surprised, well, not surprised really, that the majority of them were designers. But I was a little bit surprised about what they wanted to learn. So I knew from that what I wanted to do, but I wasn't quite sure how I was going to fit in the time to create a course and still make a living, to pay my bills and all of those kinds of things. So I just decided to carry on with the client work and create the course on the side. And I left myself like a few weeks towards the end, towards the course launch, where I wouldn't have any client work. So that I could just focus on the launch. But I think that was probably not the best way to do it, because it was quite a struggle. Like, it can be a bit overwhelming, but it is doable if you manage your time properly, I would say. And it was totally worth it. Like, even though it did feel a bit stressful, I would not take back doing it at all.
So what would you encourage instead? Like, if you could go back, would you cut back on client work and have like a lower amount of clients the whole time, or what would you suggest?
Yeah, I think that I would, if I could figure out a way to do that. And I honestly think I would have preferred to have gone back and sort of cut down on my expenses so that I could cut down on client work, so that I could really truly focus on the course. Because there are a lot of things that I couldn't find the time to add to the launch and the whole marketing strategy because of the client work. So I definitely would try to do that if I could go back, but it was done anyway, and it was a great result.
I feel like that's what I struggled with too, because when I created my first course, I was still working my full-time job and I had clients, and I kept everyone. It was just like, okay, well, something's got to give. I'm probably going to lose sleep and not take care of myself and be totally like isolated from all my friends for a while. But I found like it was an emotional struggle, because when you have clients, you know, they're your priority. And so when you feel like you're not giving them 100%, I, for me at least, I felt guilty, and they would have little last minute requests, and I would interrupt my course creation to work on that, because I felt like that's where my focus should be. So I struggled a lot with like the guilt or like emotional balance of it, in addition to like the time balance.
Yeah, I was the same. I kind of, I think for me as well, it was this case of like holding on to client work because that's all I've ever known and that's what I'm really good at. And so the thought of maybe letting that go to focus 100% on a course was really scary. So yeah, I think it was a little bit of that too.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. I love what you said about cutting back expenses. I feel like no one ever talks about making, or like people are like, you have to make sacrifices, but they don't really talk about what that looks like or what they really had to do. I mean, like people listening know my story, that I like lived in my car for a long time to have such low expenses that I could start the business I wanted to start with that freedom and not have that overhead of like, oh, I have to pay for a mortgage right when I am starting my new business and things like that. But I think, being able to say it's worth it for me to cut back some expenses and like maybe not go out to eat, or, I don't know if you have any specific ideas of things that you would do if you were in that position again.
Yeah, I think that would have been one of them, would have been to stop going out to eat so much and stop buying coffees every day and stop doing like certain things that that I've always been able to do because I've had my client work and I've had that regular income. I am a really easily stressed out person, so I think that when I weigh up the two things, looking back, when I weigh up the option of maybe like not taking on clients but cutting back expenses for the sake of my sanity and to be stress-free, then yeah, I think that I would do it, just because I personally get so overwhelmed so easily.
Yeah. Well, I think that's awesome. I think that's, everyone needs to hear that and think about that. One of my pet peeves is when people are like, I want to start an online business and make all this money, but they're like, but I don't want to spend $10 a month on the software it costs. And I'm like, okay, like you can find $10 a month, like to pay for Squarespace. Like you can figure that out. Okay, cool. So what is it? So you're transitioning from the client work over to the passive income streams or more leveraged income streams. What does that look like now? Like, what is the breakdown between, do you still do clients? What are your different products? Like, what does your product suite look like? And if you can, tell us like the percentages. Like, is it 50% of your stuff comes from courses and the other 50% is from your membership site? Like, tell us how that all looks now.
Yeah, so I have about 5 income streams, I think, at the moment. And so my e-course recently has become my highest source of income because it's evergreen and I've managed to like create a funnel that will keep those sales coming in every month. So the funnel's doing really well and it's made my e-course become about 40% of my income.
That's awesome.
And then design is about 20% because I've really cut down on that so I can focus more on products as well. But I've just chosen to keep it like a select few clients, and then the other income streams that I have are a members club that I've been running for a couple of years, and I've got 2 ebooks, and then I make a bit of affiliate income as well.
Oh, awesome. That's really cool. So how long would you say it took for you to go from all client work to where you are now with feeling like you have like 5 income streams, and some of them are super passive, some of them are like a course is not passive, but it's more leveraged and things like that. Like, how long did that transition take you, just so that our audience has maybe a realistic expectation that this doesn't happen overnight?
No way. Well, I guess it's been a transition that's happened over 2 years because my first sort of look into teaching, my first try with that, and into passive income, although running a membership club isn't really that passive, but it's more passive than client work. So I started that 2 years ago. So that was like the beginning of it all. And I still had my clients. I just decided to create a members club and run that at the same time so that I could create just like monthly sustainable income. But then I launched my ebook, my first ebook, in January of last year. So it's been about 1 year that it's taken me to do 2 launches. So that was the ebook launch and the course launch I did in 1 year. So I'd kind of go with the 1 year mark. For transitioning from client work to a more passive business model. I'd kind of go with the 1 year mark, but because that was where it really all started, where I made that decision to just pursue that business model, was in January of last year.
That's cool. Okay, so I have a question. How do you feel now? I was just thinking about this.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Do you feel like when you started to replace some of your client income with like digital products like ebooks and courses and membership sites, do you feel like you just traded one form of like busyness for another form of stress and busyness? Or do you feel like doing that legitimately? I know for me, it's just like, it's not, I don't feel passive any day of the week. Like nothing feels passive, no matter how many fucking courses and ebooks we have. Do you feel like you traded like one type of crazy busy for another type? Or do you feel like, wow, this is so different. Like I have so much more free time for real?
I wouldn't really say that I've got like tons and tons of free time from running a more passive business model, because I'm just busy doing different things. So instead of being like busy with clients all the time, I'm now busy writing blog posts or improving my course or getting ready to launch another course or things like that. So I definitely think there's a different kind of busyness that comes from this type of business model, but it just depends what you prefer. I personally would take this over stressing about clients and relying on a client who's like the one and only important factor for me finishing their project on time. I would take this over that, because I'm more in control now and I can automate a lot of the things that come with this type of business model, and I can get a lot more people to help. And so I think it's a bit of both. It's a different kind of busy, but I think it's a good kind of busy.
Yeah.
It takes a bit of getting used to, but yeah, it's good.
It seems like more, especially depending on who you are as a person, like it can be more in line with your personality. If you like creating content, but you don't necessarily like dealing with clients all the time, then it might be the same amount of hours that you're working, but it's just so much more fun. I can definitely see that.
Yeah, I like what you said about how you feel more in control, because I do think anyone that's had clients before can relate to like losing a client can dramatically affect your income. Or, you know, if a client goes another direction, you suddenly have less money. Whereas when you are in the business model you're now, yes, your customers may vary, but you can probably have some like steady numbers and growth, hopefully, where you're not dependent on one person and one person's, you know, their situation affects you so significantly. So I think that's such a good point.
It's true.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the difference is that with a client-based business model, if you do by some chance have a nightmare client, then it's a lot more of a frightening situation, because you might have taken on this client for, say, I don't know, like $5,000 or $6,000, and then realized that you and them cannot work together. And then that's a very scary prospect to fire that client or to go through that process and be miserable for a month. Whereas with a product-based business model, I just feel like it's a lot different. You can kind of control it more. So if there was, I don't really get people that complain much about the course, but I have had to do like 2 refunds for people who just didn't feel like the course suited them, and that's completely fine, because they can just simply email you and ask for a refund, and if you've got a guarantee on your course, you can just give it to them, and it's just so straightforward and so easy.
No drama.
No drama. Exactly.
So
and my course is like $197 going up to $247. So it's not like if I had to refund people, it's not like it would really hurt my bank balance each month.
Right.
So,
right.
So yeah, I think that's another difference for people to keep in mind as well.
That makes a big difference. It's so true. And the other thing is, like, you might be working the same amount of hours as you did with a client, but in those hours you can make a lot more and like serve a lot more people. So even if it's not like, oh, now I only work 2 hours a day or whatever, 5 hours a week, it's like, well, you're still working a lot, but it's serving, 1,000 students instead of 5 clients.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
awesome.
If you feel like you really want to serve a larger audience, then courses is such a great thing. And that's one of the reasons why I created my courses, because I really wanted to reach more people, and you can do that so easily with courses.
So tell us about your main course that you have right now. Just give us like a little brief overview so everyone knows what you're referring to.
Yeah, so my course is called Organize and Automate, and it's an evergreen course, so it's open all time. And it's self-study, and basically it helps designers to streamline their design process. So they go through about 6 modules that teach them things like how to speed up their Photoshop and Illustrator process, and how to work with their clients, how to manage their inbox. And they just get lots of scripts and cheat sheets that they can use to just really streamline that process and make sure that they're doing, that they're working smarter instead of harder, basically.
That's awesome. Do you have any advice for people who are like trying to launch their first course, or they're thinking about it? What would be like your number one sort of like insider advice to a newbie that's like nervous about creating and launching their first course?
I would say just do it. Like, honestly, just go for it, because I just put it off for ages. There was like 2 months when I was thinking about creating a course, and they were the 2 most agonizing months, because I just went over and over it in my head. Like, should I do this? It's going to take me a lot of time. It's going to take effort. I don't know if it's going to work. I just had all these different sort of fears. And yeah, I found your blog, and I just like binge read all of the blog posts. I just like read them, and I was like, I can do this. And I've got Mariah's courses, so I'm gonna have help. I'm gonna see how it's done. It's gonna be fine. And yeah, so I just ended up doing it, and it worked out for the better. So I would just say to people, like, don't let the fear stop you from doing it, because honestly, it could work out so well for your business. And if this course is what people need, then you're almost withholding something that will help them in their particular situation. If you don't launch it and putting it out into the world, it will just stop those people from getting the help that they really want.
Yeah, it's so true. It's like selfish for you to not sell your course, which is a weird thing. I think a lot of people have to come over that like mindset issue, or thinking, so many people have fear and guilt and shame about selling or asking for the sale, or just charging money for something that they do. And it's like, if you don't do that, then you're legitimately like potentially like, there's so many people out there that need you.
Yeah. Exactly. Just do it. Just go for it and see what happens, because honestly, it's like one of the best things that I did last year for my business. So I'm really happy with the result.
I think it's true. It's like the worst case scenario is what, like, doesn't work out. You pivot your idea, or you like, what I mean? It's like, but like you said, the upside is this like incredible benefit that you can't even imagine when you're first starting. You're just like, this could become something beyond anything you could even dream of. So the upside, I feel like, really outweighs the potential of like, well, what if it doesn't work?
It does, exactly. And if you have a course that you're going through, like I went through your first 1K and Webinar Rockstar, if you have something like that behind you, then your chances of failing are way less, because you have like a step-by-step kind of plan that you can fall back on, that you can read through. You've got the help that you need to do something that you've never done before. So
it's true.
I would also say to everyone that if this is their first time doing something like launching a course or hosting webinars, then don't do it alone, because I honestly think that I probably would have failed. So just don't do it alone. Enroll in the courses if you feel like they are what you need, because it was definitely what I needed. So
for me, it's always a thing of if I don't have some skin in the game in terms of like investment, then I won't ever do it. Like, I had to buy like an expensive piece of software to convince me to do my first webinar, because I was like, if I don't spend this money, I'll just keep wishy-washing and I'll just keep putting it off. And if I don't spend some money and then become determined, I'm like super, frugal. So I'm like, if I spend like $200 on this, I need to make $200 back with this product or with this course soon. So I always make sure to like go and use it and try to recoup my investment. And that's always a big motivator for me.
Me too. It's like when you join a gym and you buy and you don't want to go, but then you end up buying the trainers and buying the outfit, and then you think, okay, I have to go because I've got to make the use of the outfit and the trainers. So it's the same thing with anything like this. When I enrolled in the courses, I was like, right, that's it. I've done it now, so I've got to commit to creating this course and doing these webinars.
Yes, totally. Okay, so this is a really good transition. So as you mentioned, you're a student in our Webinar Rockstar course, which is a program that we have that teaches you how to do your own webinars and become a webinar rockstar. Specifically, we teach how to do joint venture webinars, which, as far as I know, we're the only course that teaches how to do these sort of like partner webinars with bundles and all these things. And I follow you on social media, of course, everywhere, Nisha, and I always see you promoting your webinars and promoting joint venture webinars with partners and other people in your industry. So I am super curious, knowing that you've been through Webinar Rockstar, how have you personally been using webinars to grow your business? And I have like a bunch of questions about how you find your partners and all that stuff is so interesting to me of how you're applying webinars in your business specifically. So tell us how you've been using webinars to grow your business.
So I use them in a few ways. I have been using webinars to promote my my course. So when I launched the course last year, I used webinars to make sales, and that was just hands down the best strategy that I could have implemented during the course, during the launch, because that's where most of my sales came from.
Okay, cool.
So Yes, that was when I first started using webinars, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I have got to start making use of this more. And I also host monthly webinars. So each month I hop on a live webinar with a special guest, and we teach designers how to improve their businesses one aspect at a time. So I do that as like a monthly live webinar series. And then I do that live for free, and then all of the replays, if people want to access them, they go into my members club.
Oh, cool.
So it's kind of like a two-way thing. So I use webinars to provide my audience with free content, but then I also add them to the club, and they get lots of bonus videos and different things to help them get the most out of that replay.
So that's one of the ways that you're monetizing your replays, is putting them into a membership club where people can pay for access. They're getting a lot of other things in the membership as well, but that's like one of the bonuses that is inside that membership.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. They get other things too, but one of the bonuses is the monthly masterclasses. They can watch them anytime they want because they're a member of the club.
Because you take down your replays after maybe a couple days or something, and then if you want access to all those replays, they're inside the membership. That's really neat. I love that way of like repurposing them. We always are trying to think of cool ways to monetize our replays, and we have a sort of like running list of interesting things you can do with your replays, and I love that. So when you're doing these webinars once a month, are these pitch free, or do you pitch the membership at the end?
They're pitch free during the live webinar. So we don't do any pitching. We don't have slides. We just keep it really, really casual. So it's just our faces on the screen. We just take questions from people that they have about the topic that we're teaching that month. And we have like a few main points that we want to talk about and discuss. But yeah, it's pitch free, slide free, and then I just kind of tell people in the emails that I send out after the webinar that if they do want to watch the replay again and again, if they want to get that access, then they can head on over to the members club.
Now that is super interesting to me, because I feel like I hear, we've done pitch-free webinars where there's just no pitch, there's no offer, there's no follow-up sales sequence. And then we do pitch webinars where there's a pitch and then there's a bunch of follow-up sales emails. But you're kind of combining that, being able to say, this is a pitch-free webinar. There's not going to be a hard sell at the end. But in those emails, there's an opportunity to buy something. Do you find that people purchase through those emails? Like, does that work well for you?
Yeah. Yeah, people do end up joining the club after the live webinar when they get the emails, because they realize that they can get access to these future webinars without having to turn up to the live thing. So, I mean, it's a pretty new thing that I've started doing, but
that's really cool.
And we may start doing it differently. So we may turn them into pitch webinars, but I don't really want to, because the whole idea sprang from just making sure that I could hop on camera with my audience and just provide free value. And yeah, obviously I just found a way to utilize the replays, but it's still really experimental. So who knows how the process is going to change over the next few months. But yeah, this is something that I'm playing with.
Do you do pitch webinars where you're pitching? Because you have an evergreen course. So I know it's like you have the free email course that leads into it. So it's evergreen and it's on a funnel. But do you also do occasionally say, hey, I have this evergreen course, so I can just do a webinar for it once in a while? Do you ever do that?
Yeah, I can, instead of like bombarding my audience all the time with promoting the course, I can, what I like to do is kind of find other people who have designers in their audience, or their main audience is designers. And yeah, we can sort of partner up, do a JV webinar together, and I can then pitch the course on that webinar to their audience. And because it's evergreen, I can do that as often as I want. So yeah, that's one of the great benefits I've found of having an evergreen course and of learning to do webinars properly, is that I can just partner up with other people whose audiences are the same as mine, and I can help them hopefully enroll in the course.
Yeah, and then like the audience owner gets a cut, like a commission for anyone who buys because they promoted it. This is really cool. So for anyone that's listening, might be kind of confused. This is what I call taking your webinars like on tour, because once you have a proven product, which you do, you've been selling this product, you've done launches, it's successful. You also have done webinars during your launches that have been successful. So you have a proven webinar and a proven product.
Yeah.
That is this like golden time to go and find other audiences to bring your webinar to and do them to other audiences. And if you're listening, if you were on Nisha's email list, you would never know that she might be presenting this webinar and making sales of her evergreen course to a different audience every single week, or in my case, multiple times per week, depending on how balls to the wall you want to go. But it's like, if you were in your audience, you would never know, and you wouldn't feel like you were being bombarded with promotions. You wouldn't feel like you were, oh, it seems like she's opening the doors, she's promoting this course every single week. You would never know, which is such a huge benefit to being able to do that, which leads me to kind of, how do you find, everyone wants to know, everyone's nervous about approaching joint venture partners or approaching someone to promote the webinar to their audience. A lot of people feel like, how am I ever going to make that an attractive offer? So how do you identify, find, and then approach these potential partners who are going to promote your webinar to their audience? Like, how does that process work for you?
I found a lot of my JV partners through social media, basically. And I took, this was one of the things that I was really worried about when I first started the whole selling products thing and doing webinars thing. I was just like, how do I approach people who could be potential webinar partners and ask them to do this with me without sounding really sleazy or just really like burning bridges with people? And it wasn't until I went through your course and there was a whole section on how to just make sure that you genuinely show interest in people first, because chances are that if you have found someone that's new to you that you really want to partner up with for a webinar, that you want to get to know them genuinely anyway, because what they do interests you. So I don't think that it's a sleazy way to go about things or anything, to just make friends with people first and then approach them about doing a JV webinar. And if they say no, it's totally fine. You can still stay friends with them.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll both partner up in some other way down the line. But yeah, I've definitely found that if you just take time to connect with people genuinely before you go jumping into asking them to partner up with you, it usually works out a lot better, and you're both usually a lot more comfortable on camera with each other.
Yes.
So
that's such a huge thing. I mean, we tell people it takes up to 4 weeks to build the relationship, and you have to be genuine about it. There should be someone that you want to have some sort of relationship with outside of this joint venture webinar. And it has to be real and it has to be authentic. And if you're, if you spend the time leading up to that pitch, it's going to feel so natural for you guys to collaborate. And I really like what you said about this might be something that happens down the line. So a lot of people, I think, if they come up with a cold pitch, they get a no, they're just like, okay, that's a no. But you have to understand if you've built a relationship with this person, it might just mean no, not right now. It might just mean I don't have time in my schedule to do that. My schedule is booked the next 6 months, but maybe in the fall we can do a webinar. So always think about it as you're not just trying to get in and get out. You're building a very much a long-term relationship. This could be someone that you end up doing joint venture webinars with we have clients and students who are oh, I have this one partner that will do the same joint venture webinar every 2 months because it's so successful and so profitable for both of them. Wow, so you might be finding these long-term partners. It's so important to build the relationship and approach it from, look, I'm going to be collaborating and connecting with this person for years to come, and treating it like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing to keep in mind, is to just not go in it thinking of yourself and what you can get from it only, but go into it thinking of the relationships that you're building and thinking of the other person too. And I always make sure to say when I'm contacting them that they're totally free to say no. It won't affect the relationship that we have. It won't affect anything like that. It's totally fine. We can hopefully do something else in the future, and just making sure that you're respectful and friendly. Really helps.
Oh my gosh. Whenever I send my pitch emails are not even really pitchy. They're hey, if you would want to collaborate, if you think it's a good fit, then let's talk more about it. My call to action in a pitch email is always just let's talk about it and see if it would make sense. Not yes or no. Do you want to do a joint venture webinar with me? You have to reply to this email. It's hey, let's hop on a call and have a coffee date and see if we see if it makes sense for both of our schedules or whatever. But I always say if it's not a good fit, or if it's just not a good time, just no pressure at all. I always like to verbalize that. There's no pressure to say yes. Whatever happens, I'll still be supporting you. It doesn't matter. Yeah,
I have. So I've the first type of webinar that I did that was that was with Caitlin Batcher, where we bundled her Wham Bam Instagram course with my Social Splash ebook, because they're both on because they're both about social media, but mine didn't delve into Instagram.
That's perfect.
So it was a perfect complement. Yeah, basically. So we kind of offered the course as the main offering, and then we added the ebook and a few other things as bonuses as well.
That's really cool, because that's what I was curious about, is some of the types of bundles or types of offers. We always talk about, and one of the things we talk about in Webinar Rockstar, as you know, is different combinations that make sense. A course and an ebook are a great collaborative combination, or a course and a service. Some of my most successful webinars have been a course where I'm doing it with a coach who's I'm going to coach you through this course one-on-one.
Oh, wow.
And it's
That's really interesting.
You get the coaching and you get the course, or a course and a service, or software and a course. These different combinations that can be just that much more successful, because it's two complementary things. So that's why I was curious about that. But that sounds like such a good combo.
Yeah, I really love doing the combo webinars, because I think they do have pros and cons. I've heard people say that if you do these kinds of webinars, it can sort of devalue your product a bit, but I really like them in certain circumstances, because it gives your audience the chance to not just learn from what you're offering them, but also learn from somebody else who's offering something that complements what they want to know. So I think it's really great for the audience themselves.
Yeah, I think it's like a great thing to work into your strategy, and it's such a good place to start. I always tell people it's like a good place to start. If you know, our experience with bundles and stuff, and I'm always super honest about this, is like the first year we did all bundles and it was awesome, but over time the logistics got more complicated because people were like, I want last month's bundle and I want next month's bundle and I want every bundle. And so it got a little bit more complicated, but then is when you kind of switch over to, well, by that time you have so much webinar experience that you switch into doing the webinar tours that you've been doing, which is like taking a proven webinar to all these other audiences, not to your own audience. And that's where it like really starts to click.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would totally say as well that if you're new to webinars, the whole bundle webinar thing is perfect because you don't have to worry too much about being the only person that's pitching something. But when I first started doing webinars, I was really scared about the pitching side of things. But if you're bundling it with somebody else's product, they're also going to be hopping in and you're both going to be sharing that side of it. So it's a lot easier for newbies to do it with somebody else's.
Exactly. I mean, that was my whole reason for coming up with this entire strategy, was because I was like, I don't want to do it alone. Like, I was like, I need a friend to help me get through this pitch and help me teach. And like, it's going to be way more, way less nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone who maybe feels nervous or shy about webinars, or who is just sitting there thinking like, holy crap, I'm never going to be able to like get over myself and do a webinar? What would your advice be for someone who's nervous about starting to do webinars?
I would say, first of all, do it with somebody else. Don't do your first few webinars alone. And second, don't think about it too much. So, because when I first started, I would script out everything. And I mean, like, not just slides, but I would write down the points that I wanted to make on certain slides that weren't written on the slides. I would just go way overboard, and I would read through them like again and again to make sure that I knew what I was going to say. And I think it just made me more nervous because I had overdone it too much and I'd overthought it. Whereas if you have your slides, you know the material that you're teaching because you're hopefully an expert in it. So don't worry too much about like making little mistakes or about making sure that you say a specific thing at a specific time. Just let it flow and don't worry yourself too much about it. Just have fun.
I love that advice. I think there's something to be said for being like casually prepared. Like, you don't want to be super unprepared, but I've also been in that situation where if you're overly like scripting things, it can sound like you're not really present. It can sound like you are just reading off a script. It can mess you up because you're so like, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to say it perfectly. I do think just like, as long as you have a general outline, just talk, and just people will appreciate it being more natural and flowing, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
That is very, very good advice. Don't overthink it, guys. Don't overprepare. Don't go crazy. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, well, I think so we have a couple of questions that we ask every single one of our interviewees before we wrap things up, sort of about where things are headed. So I'm excited to jump into some of these questions. So the first one is, what are you personally struggling with right now the most in your business?
I think I'm still trying to balance the overwhelm when it comes to launches because I am relaunching Organize and Automate in 3 weeks' time.
Wow.
Because the price is going up. So we're doing a launch to make sure that everybody who wants the course, who's been eyeing up the course, can get it for this price before it moves up to the next price level. So, and yeah, I find with every launch that I seem to not really learn too many lessons from the last launch. And I just end up stressing out a little bit too much with every time that it comes around. So I am learning to just try and streamline launches more because I streamlined the freelancing process, got that down. I just need to really make sure that I streamline this process so that with each time it comes around, it's hopefully less stressful.
That's like literally Megan's life. I know.
Well, it's been a struggle for us because this past launch is a great example. I felt like I've finally had things streamlined for going forward, but we're probably going to change things for the next launch. So it's like
the sad truth.
every time we launch, we and we've said this on our episodes before, we love tweaking and changing and testing and experimenting, which when you do that, it does mean that you aren't able to really automate as much as we would love to as well. But as long as you don't change everything, you can slowly start to automate. I think something that's helped us the most has been taking just a few extra minutes when you're creating something new and like creating a template version of it. That's always been super helpful. And the past 2 launches really started utilizing like one massive spreadsheet as like our go-to. We used to use Asana. We still use Asana, but Asana used to house like all of the important information for reference. Yeah. And that was great, but we couldn't really go back and easily look at like our 2015 launch because that was like archived. You have to pull it up. So we started doing like a go-to spreadsheet for each launch where like I can go back and look at the fall 2015 launch or the spring 2016 launch or this past launch and like quickly see how things did and what we did differently. So I'm going a little more old school in the sense of like spreadsheets being the answer.
Spreadsheets are the shit though. The spreadsheets are like where it's at. Like the spreadsheets with multiple tabs for different things, but all in one spreadsheet is like has saved our lives. It's amazing.
I will definitely have to try that because I've got to do something. So
yes, we will show you our spreadsheets.
But I totally empathize with wanting to streamline the launch process. And it's like, I think no matter what, you're an ambitious woman. So I think like you're never going to feel fully satisfied. Like it's hard for me to picture you doing one launch and being like, that was flawless. I'm not going to change one thing. Like there's probably always going to be something you want to test or improve or tweak or add some new element. So you almost kind of just have to like embrace that element of the launch.
Just embrace the crazy. I'm just going to try and embrace it. And
oh my gosh, it's so hard.
Just do it.
But I agree. It's like, I almost, like, I feel like streamlining your launch and your process is something good to work on. And it is good to aspire to. And it is something like you don't want to not do anything. But at the same time, I would challenge the idea that that's even possible because it's just like no 2 launches are ever the same. And you're always, it's like for us, it's like we've done, you know, in my mind, I was like, oh, we're going to make this 3-part video series. And then like, that's going to be it. And then like the launches will be like recorded and done and like ready to go every time. And then it's like 2 launches later, I'm like, scrap the 3-part video series. We're doing something different next time. Like totally rebuilding the launch from the ground up. Yeah. Like I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do something new and crazy. And it's like, it's almost like, you know, once you get it perfected, and this is maybe just a character flaw, but every time I get something right, I like want to like destroy it and redo it. And I want to like, it's so goodness. Boring. Yeah. It's like, I get so bored that I'm like, okay, this is working like clockwork. This is perfect. Okay. Well, this is really boring because now I know exactly what's going to happen. I know the conversion rate. I know how it does. Like now it's just like math. And then I'm like, that's boring. Let's destroy it and make something new.
Yeah, I'm the same. I would like write out all of my launch emails.
Yes.
And then they worked really well for that launch. Yeah. But then I'm like seeing somebody else's launch emails and I'm like, I want to implement that. Like what they're doing in their emails is so cool. Yes. So I end up rewriting all of the launch emails and
I know.
Yeah, it is a bit crazy, but it's fun.
Well, how often, this is a little bit of a side tangent, but how often do you do the launches, whether it's like an open close launch or the price increase launches, which we've done as well, is like how often do you do those in a year usually?
So I'm planning on I was going to do like 2. I went into this year with this thought that I was going to do like 2 course launches, because it's always evergreen, but that I would kind of launch it twice in the year. But then I had other ideas come up and different things that I wanted to kind of delve more into. Like I've got a members club, so I'm going to be relaunching that. So for this year, my plan at the moment is to just stick to one launch for Organize and Automate and then relaunch it again at the start of next year. But who knows, because I'm always changing my yearly plan. So
Same.
I can just about stick to like 90 days at a time. So who knows?
Well, I think that's the right way to do it. And I really appreciate your honesty about how things change. And obviously it's like all of us, like our goals are one way on January 1st. And then by the end of quarter one, you're like, what the fuck is happening in my life?
Pretty much.
I do feel like going and implementing, focusing on 90 days as like really honing your promotion schedule has been a really good spot for us. And we've even started like planning content for the 90 days and just like focusing on that instead of trying to like plan out the whole year. Like even us for the fall, it's like, okay, well, we kind of have a rough idea of what we're doing in the fall, but it may change, and that's not in the next 90 days. So we'll worry about that.
Yeah, I'm the same. I have like a rough yearly plan, but a really solid 90-day plan. So just works better for me that way.
Yeah, same.
Okay, cool. My next question is, what do you think is going to be the next like trend or big change happening in online business or online courses specifically? Like, how do you predict that things are shifting or changing in the next coming years?
I think when it comes to courses, I'm seeing a lot more like premium courses coming up where they are like anywhere from like $1,000 to $2,000 for the course instead. And I'm personally like, I'm really liking that, like seeing people do that and seeing how they do that. And I think that will, I don't know, but it will probably become something that more people do as time goes on, because we're all launching like our $100, $200, $300 courses. Right. And then people want somewhere to go after that. So yeah, I can see that more maybe in the future.
That's a really cool observation.
Yeah, and I know I personally like really love those kind of courses because I feel more committed to them. So yeah, I'm excited to see more people rolling out that kind of thing in the future. Like I know you guys have got launch your signature tongue-tied launch your signature course, which is like the first time that I really saw or started to notice, I guess, people doing those kinds of courses. So yeah, I like that idea of things.
I mean, I think as things like this, I think that really ties into one of the things that we talk about, which is like people really focusing on like, okay, I have a course, it makes sales, I have students enrolled, how can we get the best results? Like, how can we keep improving the course itself so that people are actually following through and getting results? And like, you've kind of mastered the marketing and you have enough people enrolled that you can now start like experimenting with the delivery of the course and like the support that people need and things like that, and improving like the learning experience itself. And I think that as we go on, people will realize that they've bought a lot of those $100, $200 courses and not followed through because they didn't feel committed to it. And so I think that could be tied into those prices going up, or people offering more premium $1,000 or $2,000 courses. That is like, look, I know that the people who invest in this are going to get results. They're going to finish the work. Yeah. And if you have sold a $97 course for a long time and you're sick of people not completing it or not even ever logging in, then you charge more and people actually feel compelled to get more value out of it and actually follow through, because of the same reason we talked about earlier in this episode with like that commitment of investment and things like that. So I really think that that is true. People are going to continue to charge those premium prices, and hopefully a lot of the people, like you said, that have never done that before will start venturing into that realm.
Yeah, that'll be exciting to see in our online niche. It'll be nice.
Definitely. Okay, so what is coming up for you in the next coming months? Anything that you're excited about or that you want to tell our listeners about that you're working on?
Yeah, so I am relaunching Organize and Automate. So it's currently $197, but it's going up to $247. So we're doing a launch around that so that anybody who wants to take advantage of the current price can jump into the course before the price goes up. So we're doing that from May the 9th, which I am really excited about. We've worked really hard towards it. In improving the course and rolling out some new lessons and just really making it the best that it can be for designers. So I'm excited to relaunch that next month.
That's awesome. I'm excited for that. And where can our listeners find you? I know you also have a freebie for our listeners. So tell us about that. Where can they find that? And where can they find more about you online?
Yeah, so they can learn more about me at neshawoolery.com, which is maybe a bit tricky to spell, but I know it'll be in the show notes, so it's fine.
Yes.
Yeah, they can go to neshawoolery.com to read my blog or find my ebooks and my course. And yeah, I've got a free course that's a snippet of Organize and Automate. It's called Project Management for Designers. And it's a totally free email course which will teach any designer who's watching this how to use Asana to manage their design process and manage their clients. So you can go to neshawoolery.com/The Femme Show, to sign up. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Neesha, for sharing so much amazing, valuable little nuggets today. Like everything you shared about how you transitioned from client work to courses is so interesting and so valuable. Everything about how you're using webinars monthly in your business and taking them on tour to other audiences. So valuable. Just thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Go to thefemshow.com/42 for the show notes to this episode and to read Neesha's case study that's on the blog today. And we have links to everything we mentioned. And don't forget to go ahead and grab Neesha's free 5-day course, Project Management for Designers, while you're there. And if you want to discuss this episode with us and our amazing community of online entrepreneurs, make sure to join our free Facebook group at thefemshow.com/community.
And if you like this episode, subscribe to the Femtrepreneur Show on iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. If you're watching this on YouTube, please leave us a comment below. We love to see what you guys think about these episodes and talk to you guys in the comments. And remember to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. And if you have a question for us that you want us to answer live on the show and give you a shout out, go to thefemshow.com to submit your question, and we will see you next week.